So I'm looking at this hugely massive amount of concrete structure behind you. How much of this did you already see in your head before you started putting it together?
What you see behind? All of it. It's as close as I could in my head place what was in my head in the yard here. And all of this, where it all lays out, where pieces end, where there's a slide coming down, all of that was in here. Now, maybe not all of the specific detail what's going to go on the wall here, which is why we left the steel exposed to be able to get through. But the way that that laid out, the way that the buildings were, the way that the lazy river, that's pretty much how I pictured it. The final details, not so much, but when I designed from way underground and I build up. I'm all structural. I love the fun stuff, but I think mostly about what the structure underneath that's holding the cool stuff is, because that's really my part. I do less of the decorative, more of the structural stuff, and then the rest of the gang comes in here and makes it look really good. But I've got to make sure that structurally we're exactly what we need to be so that what they do turns out well. And so this is all the stuff that my head is on, not the details ever. From here on out, I start thinking about details, but up to this point, all I've ever thought about is the structure from the time I designed it to we started building it.
Have you always had the ability to see things like this in your head? Or how would, if somebody thinks they want to do this, how do they get to the point where they could see this in their imagination before it gets put together?
That's a great question. I think for me, because my background, I loved art and I wanted to be an artist, but my schooling and my education started out in engineering. So I had a little bit of the creative and a little bit of the technical. And my degree is physics, which is more of the physical world, which has helped me a whole lot because I understand enough about all the different forces, all the different strains and stresses that happen. And this is all trainable and teachable, but you have to not think like you've always thought before. That's people's challenges. They want to try to solve a problem thinking the way they've always thought. And instead, if you can take a fresh perspective and look at things in a fresh new way, you're far more likely to achieve the ability to see this in your head. I don't think there's a magic to it. I think in some respects, it's my history and my past that's allowed me to be able to do this. But I think that anybody could with enough noodle time. It's just, you got to spend time in your head. And most people are too scared to spend time in their head. Really, a sustained thought is the most important thing anyone could ever do. And yet most people can't hold a sustained thought in their head for very long. So if someone can master that and sustain a thought for a little while, I think they could attain this in a heartbeat. But you have to master being able to think about something until your brain hurts long enough that you've thought about it. And once you do that, I think anything's possible.